Hi there, Victor Pross speaking to you today in a fairly brief video. I'd like to talk about the power structures that we're all born into. Um, and I do make these videos, I intentionally make these videos relatively short because I do want to make them in such a way that they're easily chewable cognitive chunks that can be digested and considered, and so I don't want to overwhelm the listeners with complex philosophical concepts, and so that will always be my purpose and intention, is to make them short and sweet and to the point as much as I can. So, like I say, I wanted to talk a little bit about the power structures that we're all born into, and that would be the family, the state, and religion. Not necessarily in that order. They seem to be a reinforcing triad. And I guess I can start my point by speaking of the parable of Adam and Eve, which I guess maybe in parts of the Baptist South there would be a literal interpretation of the Garden of Eden, of Genesis, that literal in the sense that it was actually historical fact. Biology or Darwinism has no place there. It's just there's two human beings. They were God waved his magic wand, poof, instant human being sprung up from the earth like a geranium plant, and then as a afterthought, God thought, oh, here I invented man, or I created man, and yeah, guess I'll toss in this thing called a female there, and I haven't got, I need just some spare parts to work with, so if I could just borrow one of your ribs at them, that'd be cool, thanks. So anyway, a literal interpretation aside, as far as I'm concerned, it's all rather allegorical, and it's meant to communicate a moral parable. So let's look at what the moral parable is meant to convey. Very simply, of course, there's Adam and Eve. They have everything that they would possibly want. They're living in paradise. They are without strife and want and desire. They're just existing harmoniously, blissfully, ignorantly, and God sat down and said over that you can eat from those trees and grow this this food over here, fruit and vegetables or whatever, but there's that one apple tree that you're not to eat from. Don't eat from that apple tree. Don't eat from that specific apple tree. You can eat from those ones over there, but don't eat from that tree there, because that is the tree of knowledge. Okay? No. Don't eat from the tree of knowledge that enables you to distinguish good from evil. So now, what is being communicated here is simply the assertion of authority, because it was not as if there was something specifically wrong with that apple tree that rationally they weren't supposed to eat from that tree because the apples had worms in them, or they weren't good, or some other purpose that was reasonable. You know, it was simply an assertion of authority. Do not eat from that apple tree. And as the story goes, of course, as tempted by a talking snake, that they disobeyed God and were thereafter expelled from the Garden of Eden, and which begat all the woes of mankind because of that first transgression. And this is known in Christian cosmology or philosophy. Well, we'll say it's philosophy. Is known as original sin, of course. So all of humankind was tainted by original sin because of our original mother and father transgression, their sin. So the thing here that's being communicated, this is very important. This is the crucial part. Is that authority is to be obeyed, not because it yields necessarily good results or because it's rational, but authority is to be obeyed as an end in itself. Authority is meant to be obeyed as an end in itself. Okay, so that's where the virtue is, obeying authority because it is authority. How did it come to be an authority? It could be certainly just simply a self-appointed authority, as all of history shows. Whoever had the greatest bombastic pompass and propaganda, or whoever shouted, or was the most convincing, or who threatened force, and if you disobeyed, and just later on it just became indoctrinated that obeying authority, whether it be secular or religious, that the virtue resides in the submission to authority. That's where it's always been taught, and this is where we've been indoctrinated to think that authority doesn't matter if it's reasonable, doesn't matter if it makes sense. There's not an appeal to reason; it's just an appeal to authority, and in that resides moral purity. So you have that within religion, and of course, religion and the state and government have always been bedfellows for a long time. You have theocracies, the joining of religious doctrine and state rule, and this also transpires to the family as well. You know, the first authority figures that we're introduced to, of course, are our parents, or otherwise guardians, whoever is appointed as guardianship over us as when we were very young. Could be the state, a foster family, or our biological parents, whatever. You get the point. So you get the whole, because I said so, that's why type of authority-based ethic rammed down your throat. You get it at home. You get it at church. You get it from the government. Okay, the government is this large, overpowering, riding, benevolent force for bringing about social utility and dispensing of goods, all at the at the host civilization's expense, of course. But you're not necessarily supposed to focus on that. It's just here's the wise overlord, the government looking over us, and then you have the supernatural overlord overlooking us, and then you have our parents overlooking at us. So it's just a complete clusterfuck of authority being rammed down our throats. So right about at the age of 5, when the child is naturally scientific and curious, organic, pure, so to speak, tabula rasa in a certain way. And when I say scientific, that the infant is scientific or a young child is scientific, I don't mean that it's developed and honed its reasoning skills and is coming up with mathematical theorems and things like that. I just mean that the child is absorbing everything, taking everything in, making logical connections, discovering the physical world. The child, when he first is very curious and investigative. It would roll a ball. It sees that when it pushes the ball, that it rolls across the floor. When it pushes a block, it stands still. It's learning about causality and the behavior of physical properties, and this is what I mean. But later, that is dampened, so to speak. It's squelched in such a way that's replaced by an authority-based ethic. And I use ethic with quotation marks, of course. And the child is steeped into this, into the modern culture, and you do have these power paradigms, these power structures that completely, to a great deal of very few people possess the intellectual acuity and strength to break free from these mental chains and simply return to the state of as what they were pure in childhood, and just look at the world factually and empirically, and to have a whole scientific base towards their way of looking at the world. And this is something that I've struggled to do within myself. I didn't come out completely unscathed walking this earth my 40-plus years and things like that. It took a lot of work. But unfortunately, I see that as I observe my fellow human beings, that they have not necessarily done the same. They take things like the governments and institutions and religion, and they place it up on a level as if it was a scientific fact, or if it was like as if it was an empirical fact itself. You know, so to a lot of people's minds, the weather, something that's just you know, empirical, it's not a part of nature. They take nature as if it was equivalent to a government rule. It's just, that's the way it is. And this uncritical, stuporous thinking, and it's just like, well, I guess they know what they're doing. That's how it is. That's the world I live in. And so, and this is the downfall of human beings. I think this is the most regrettable thing that we have to break free if we're to have a prosperous and happy society. And it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing that the technology that we do have and the prosperity and abundance that we do enjoy has sprung free, slipping through the cracks of all the indoctrination and crap that we have been weighed down with, that human reason was nevertheless able to survive and spring through like light coming through a barn door that's otherwise dank and ugly and smelling and dark and things like that, but through the cracks and the holes in the barn you can see that light pouring in, and it's very beautiful. And that's how I look at culture. And that's how I look at the human potential, that it's something that is the human potential and human reason and the capacity for love to create works of art, that this nevertheless has been able to spring free and come forth amongst all the indoctrinating muck. And you know, it's just kind of like akin to seeing a flower spring from concrete. You would think that the concrete is just overpowering and hard and brutal, and you scrape your knee on it and things like that, and there's a flower, beautiful and yielding to the touch, yet it broke free and sprung up from the concrete. Or it could very well be a weed, but I think you appreciate the analogy. So there you have it. You have the reinforcing paradigm of state and family and religion, and I guess there's so much more that could be said about this, but like I say, I'll keep them in short mental chunks, and I do thank you for listening, and as far as you have been, and thank you for tuning in. Pop Culture.